LCOM is slated in the Public Accounts Committee's latest report on the inquiry into the Ravensworth coal washery. The washery, owned and operated by Commission subsidiary LCOM Collieries, is estimated to have cost $70 million. Committee Chairman John Murray says in the report released late yesterday that it's disturbing a public utility with net assets in excess of $5 billion should be found to have serious management problems. Mr Murray says the committee is also concerned that at one stage the Electricity Commission management told Energy Minister Cox that the washery was in regular commercial operation, when committee investigations have revealed that claim was not true. The Hunter Valley washery was told more than 7 years ago to upgrade the quality of coal being transported to Hunter power stations, but despite huge capital outlays, it was plagued by breakdowns. The concert has been organised by the Hunter Presbytery of the Uniting Church. They've called the extravaganza New Site because that's exactly what they hope the proceeds will pay for. The Uniting Church wants to establish a campsite and conference centre and is looking at properties near the eastern shores of Lake Macquarie. The concert is a positive way of raising money for the project, as well as providing a great night out. Acts include a commercial artist who will paint Rolf Harris style during the course of the evening, an auction with many valuable items up for grabs, ballet dancing and a performance by the Waratah Girls Choir. The concert begins at 8 o'clock at the Griffith Duncan Theatre at the Hunter Institute of Higher Education. The building in Sandpiper Street, Kooragang Island, housed the Amersley Chemical Company. Fire brigades from Waratah and Tighes Hill were called to the scene around 4:20 this morning, but were unable to save the single-storey brick building. Ambulance officers have been kept busy attending a spate of accidents caused by the wet weather. The most spectacular was in Woodward Street, Merriweather Heights. A car ran down an embankment and slammed into a house. The driver was not injured. The house was unoccupied. Police think the dealers hid 40 kilos of cocaine inside rotting coffins in the catacombs of the cemetery. Such a quantity has an estimated street value of more than $15 million. Police believe the drugs were grown by an international ring in Bolivia, the country at the centre of world cocaine trafficking and the focus of international police attention. 4 young children died in a house fire at Somerset. A 12-year-old girl was left in charge of 4 youngsters ranging in age from 3 to 10. She heard an explosion in the kitchen. The heat from the fire was so intense it blew windows from their frames. Police are interviewing the parents to find out why the children were left alone. And up to 70,000 people marched through London in one of the biggest demonstrations staged there against apartheid. The protesters called for economic sanctions against South Africa.
There were plenty of happy faces at Merriweather Beach today. Showing off their team championship trophy were Mark Richards, Luke Egan, Simon Law, Matt Hoy, Stuart Hughes, Mick Adam, Craig McMillan and Nicky Wood. For the first time, the new tag team format was used, where a team of 5 surfers have to ride 4 waves each in a time limit of 1 hour, with only 1 surfer allowed in the water at a time. In the final yesterday, Merriwa beat Queenscliff 127 points to 118. It was a sweet victory for the locals. In the past 3 years, they have been second once and third twice. Best for Merriwa was 18-year-old Luke Egan, who was named the most outstanding surfer of the competition. Team president Tim Ryan says he's already begun looking into the possibility of taking on the top US club in a World Club Championship.
Hopefully, if all goes to plan, we can take on America. I plan to approach a number of sponsors or perhaps get some local support, and we can take the team with the supporters to America to challenge a Californian team. I've been on the phone to Sydney this morning to a number of people, and ASP is keen for this event. So with any luck, that could come off in July of next year.
Representatives of the three Newcastle-based members, Gunninans, Comsteel and Varleys, held a news conference yesterday to announce their move. The Anzac Frigate project involves $5 billion to be spent over 12 years, building 8 vessels for the RAN and 4 for the New Zealand Navy. The Newcastle Frigate Company is proposing to build a state-of-the-art facility at a cost of $100 million on the northern end of the former State dockyard site. Gunninans, Alco and Varleys, through their own separate consortium, Gavenge, have put a proposal to the state government to acquire the Dyke End, or southern section, to develop a separate engineering facility. The Frigate Company proposal envisages a 5,000-tonne capacity ship lift and computerised methods to build modular sections with fitting-out facilities on the Eastern Wharf. Gunninan's Chief General Manager, John Fitzgerald, said that while 1,000 people would be employed directly over the next 12 years on the project, it would leave Newcastle with an ongoing facility for electronics and weaponry, which would also have export potential in naval work. An overseas design company for the frigates will be chosen soon, with a final decision on its construction partner finalised in early 1989. "250 men and women work as ambulance officers in the Hunter region. Many of them gathered at the Cardiff Workers' Club last night to honour and farewell one of their longest-serving members. Ray Douglas joined the service at Bullaroo in 1951 and, for the last 15 years, has been the officer in charge of Cardiff Station. Acting Regional Superintendent Arthur McLennan presented Ray with a commemorative medal, signifying that after 36 years on call, his nights and weekends are now his own. Ray says that times have certainly changed.
I'm rather amazed that we was able to conform and to achieve the results that we did in them days with the limited equipment that we had. In comparison to the equipment we've got today, we've got everything at our fingertips today.
The night was also dedicated to recognising the achievements of other regional officers during the year. Rod Avery received the National Medal for completion of 15 years' service. Brian Tucker was awarded the Superintendent's Diploma after completing that course, and Max Schultz received a citation commemorating an act of bravery he performed several years ago. In 1976, Max was lowered into a sea cave in Fraser Park, from which he rescued a 15-year-old boy.
Ron especially. Thank you.
The proposed multicultural centre set aldermen in the new Lake Macquarie Council at loggerheads from its first meeting. Labor aldermen who supported the plans for 3.5 years were not planning to let them drop easily, despite no longer having the controlling numbers on council. Heated scenes have accompanied every discussion of the centre's future, or lack of it. Last week, Mayor Ivan Welsh brought down a mayoral minute calling for the centre to be scrapped, and won support 9 votes to 6. The Labor alderman held on to every straw, however, and Alderman Edwards moved a rescission motion requiring the minute to be again put to the vote at the next council meeting. Last night, the Labor alderman sought to convince some of the independents to change their vote, knowing that if they lost again, it would be 3 months before they could put forward another rescission motion, well past the New South Wales Bicentennial Authority's deadline for bicentennial projects of November the 20th. Alderman Edwards claims that the independents' belief in an election mandate is totally erroneous.
The independents should be independent. think for themselves. Don't be railroaded by these fellows who just want to get even, and that's all it's all about after all. You know, it was said tonight, or said last night, sorry, that you Labor boys made us cop the brickbats for 10 years, so now you're going to cop some. Well, you know, that's the name of the game. We all understand that, but that's not sanity. That's not giving the people of this community something that they deserve.
The motion to drop the centre was eventually carried, with none of the aldermen changing their original vote. The debate then centred on the Mayor's suggestion for the development of a park at Green Point as an alternative. That idea too caused division. While supporting the idea, Alderman Doug Carley said he didn't believe it could be properly assessed in the short amount of time available, and that the council should realise it can no longer count on a state grant. Nevertheless, it was voted that the Greenpoint Park proposal be researched and the results presented to the Lake Macquarie Bicentennial Authority and the Bicentennial Council in Sydney.
Hello, I'm Jane Button. Tonight I'll bring you the story of a mass resignation by general practitioners from Curry and Cessnock hospitals. The GPs have followed the lead of doctors in the Upper Hunter.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Most country hospitals in the Hunter don't have resident medical officers. Instead, they rely on general practitioners who are given visiting rights. In the last 2 days, the majority of general practitioners attached to Curry and Cessnock hospitals handed in their resignations.
As of yesterday, 21 members of the general practitioner staff of Curry and Cessnock hospitals have resigned, and I received another resignation today, which I handed in to the administration this morning, so that makes it 22 out of the 23 general practitioners who service Cessnock and District Hospital have now resigned, their resignations being effective from 30 days from now.
The doctors' action mirrors that taken by GPs in the Upper Hunter. And according to the chairman of the Northumberland Medical Staff Council, Dr Charles Horvath, about 50% of New South Wales country general practitioners have now resigned. The reason for the action centres on a number of issues. These include a claim by doctors for an on-call allowance and dissatisfaction over a state government decision to scrap a number of other allowances.
In the long term, if there is no resolution, then the ultimate impact will be a massive sort of closure of all elective work at these two hospitals.
The Northumberland Area Health Board said in a statement this afternoon that it is particularly anxious to ensure that emergency services are maintained to the seriously ill and injured. It will have talks with the GPs to work out some satisfactory method of dealing with such cases. However, the real onus rests with the AMA and the state government to work out some satisfactory resolution to the whole dispute. At this stage, it's unclear exactly what effect the resignations will have. However, the prognosis does not look good if the parties don't get around the negotiating table.
Three years ago, the Cessnock City Council approved stage 1 of a multi-million-dollar development at Becolban, known as Village Olympus. The complex was to include 205 villas, a restaurant, galleries, wine and food school and recreational facilities. Council approved construction of 33 villas, but only 3 are finished. Despite having the endorsement of the Hunter Region Shires Association, the project is yet to clinch the necessary financial backing from investors.
For the developer, time is running out. Next month, the site goes up for auction, and that's why Managing Director of Village Olympus has coordinated a Hunter Opportunity Day in Sydney. He hopes to lure the investor and convince him that this region is a potential tourism goldmine.
If the Hunter people will stand with us on Hunter Opportunity Day, which is on Tuesday in the Sydney Chamber of Commerce rooms between 11 and 1, that will be sufficient for the financiers who've told me that they will be present. It will be sufficient for them to say, Mark, start this beautiful new family and Hunter project.
Meanwhile, in yet another bid to boost international tourism to the region, In Tours Australia are promoting a new venture especially for Japanese honeymooners. After arriving in Sydney from Tokyo only this morning, the 9 new couples were flown to Cessnock, where they visited the vineyards and some cuddly native animals at the Roosa Deer Park. By our standards, it's a rushed 5-day package deal, but that's how the Japanese prefer their holidays, especially with only 1 week of annual leave. For $920 Australian, the tour takes in the sights of Sydney to Hervey Bay and Brisbane via stopovers at Cessnock and the Gold Coast. It's anticipated that by late next year, 4 weekly flights will bring 11,000 tourists and more than $1.5 million to the area. But according to Tourist Officer Philip Brown, it's only the cream on top of where the real potential lies.
We have to keep on concentrating our efforts on promoting this area as a tour destination for domestic Australians. We're all doing our best to increase the overseas component as far as visitors are here, and I stress that is the cream on top.
Good afternoon. Last night on NBN News we brought you a report on homeless children in Sydney. A Lake Macquarie woman has recognised her son, a runaway.
Someone in the neighbourhood saw it on TV last night. And
you've got no idea why he's run away?
No.
For details, join us tonight at 6.
Pilot cutters take their name from the days when that particular style of sailing ship was used to transfer pilots to vessels wishing to enter a harbour. Although the name has stuck, Newcastle Maritime Services Board's newest vessel couldn't be further from those bygone days. The $850,000 Governor Macquarie is one of 3 Governor-class cutters so far taken into service by the New South Wales MSB, the other 2 being based at Port Kembla and Sydney Harbour. It'll replace the 28-year-old Girralong, now to be donated to the Volunteer Coastal Patrol. The Governor Macquarie is equipped with the latest navigational and communications technology and is powered by 2 diesel engines capable of pushing it along at 20 knots. The vessel has seating for 6 pilots, which, according to Harbour Master Captain Brian Ramage, is part of its essential equipment for the growth of the harbour.
We will be moving into multiple movements on tides in Newcastle, and we need to have a piece of equipment like this modern pilot vessel which can service 3 and 4 ships at a time without having to return to the pilot station to pick up more pilots.
So this should take Newcastle into the future?
This will take Newcastle well into the future. It is the most modern pilot vessel in Australia today.
The Governor Macquarie officially entered service this morning when it was named by Mrs Dorothy Risby, after which official guests sampled the cutter's abilities firsthand with a harbour cruise.
Journalist Paul White visited a Sydney refuge which offers youngsters temporary accommodation. One of the youths, shown for barely a few seconds in the report, was recognised by a Lake Macquarie resident. The boy was from Tingara Heights. He ran away from home 8 days ago. Caroline Anderson identified her son. 15-year-old Peter left school at the beginning of this year. He does not have a job and his mother does not know why he has run away. Do you think he'd regard this whole thing as a bit of an adventure?
Yes, because he has run away before, and when he's gone before he has got in contact with me and then he's just come home. But this time he got in touch with me yesterday morning, but he just tried to tell me there was a Gold Coast, but the operator said that it was a reverse call from Sydney, so I knew where he was.
Peter has taken to the streets countless times since he was 13 years old, for periods of up to 6 weeks. Unable to deter him, The Andersons have focused their anger on the refuges that accept him without question, providing him with a place to hide and, in their eyes, encouraging his anonymity. So you think the hostel should contact you?
Yes, I do.
Hanging over the family is the fear that one day Peter will not come home, and this is proving a tremendous strain. Caroline has a very simple message for her son.
Come home.
Morisset Hospital staff, angry over Mr Anderson's plans to close down the hospital, had planned to disrupt his official opening of the festival this morning. Mr Anderson headed off the protest, however, by arranging to meet delegates from the unions after his opening speech. Mr Anderson says those who are fighting to keep Morisset and the other threatened psychiatric hospitals open are not thinking of the patients.
But there is no doubt that anybody who has a look at what we've announced as the statewide program cannot but be impressed in terms of patient care, and all these ludicrous assertions that we propose to empty everybody out of institutions is not true and has never been proposed. There are people who will require short, medium and long-term institutional care. That care ought to be given in world-class facilities. That will be what happens under the program. Those people who can live outside will be given the opportunity and properly supported accommodation to be able to do that.
Shane Buckley, Morisset President of the Health and Research Employees Association, questions Mr Anderson's claims that the scheme will entail no job losses for health workers.
We have Mr Anderson's response to the questions we asked. As far as I'm concerned, in that letter there is no assurance that there will be no job losses. We have many people on this job who are employed as temporary assistants against a permanent position, and they still can't be appointed to that permanent position.
After the meeting with Mr Anderson, Mr Buckley said that nothing had been achieved and he believed the invitation had been issued simply to stop the planned protest. The health workers have now planned a public meeting in Morisset tonight to gauge public reaction to the proposed closure. The possibility of industrial action has not been ruled out.
Women's health issues came under discussion today at the start of a 3-day seminar at Hunter Hospital. It's a first for the region, setting out to put the facts straight, and if successful, the workshops will continue.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.